The deputy spokesperson. Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't think they're fine. Do you think it's fine?
I don't think so. It's already troubled. It's not fine.
I'm almost early. All right, good afternoon. Just some programming notes. Made in Gaza City amid extreme insecurity. They're heavily reliant on humanitarian assistance as more critical services there have been forced to close or move. Meanwhile, our teams across the Gaza Strip continue to face access denials and heavy impediments, preventing them from providing support at the scale needed. Yesterday, out of 15 movements that we tried to coordinate with Israeli authorities to support people in different parts of Gaza, only 7 were fully facilitated. Teams were able to collect fuel, medical items, and other supply from Karim Shalom, along with other missions, but were prevented from trucking water in the north and were not allowed to access other crossings, including to collect Four, we are engaging with relevant stakeholders to urgently address these concerns, warning the continued closure of this border without viable alternatives with further undermine the already dire humanitarian situation in Gaza. Also in the West Bank, OCHA colleagues tell us the number of Palestinians who've been displaced since 7th of October 2023 due to attacks by Israeli settlers and access restrictions has now surpassed 3,000. Half of them are children, mostly from Bedouins and herding communities. A quick update from southern Lebanon, where UNIFIL colleagues tell us that this week they found several unauthorized weapons and ammunition caches in their area of operations, including mortar shells, ammunition, rounds, rockets, fuses, and military gear. In the 10 months since the cessation of hostilities that was established last November, peacekeepers have discovered over 330 caches. Meanwhile, peacekeepers continue to report daily that Israeli Defense Forces military activities in the mission area of operations. Yesterday, UNIFIL observed air violations and mortar fire from south of the Blue Line in their sector west area of operations. And also this week, UNIFIL's Maritime Task Force organized 2 training exercises on 24th and 25th of September with the Lebanese Air Force off the coast of Beirut. Also, UN peacekeepers organized training for Lebanese army personnel and maintaining military vehicles to enhance operational activities. As you'll recall, last week, the peacekeeping mission donated more than 100 vehicles to the Lebanese armed forces. Yesterday, the mission donated an extra 15 to the General Security, which is the government service responsible for addressing national security threats and securing the country's borders. Turning to Sudan and the horrific situation there, our humanitarian colleagues on the ground tell us that civilians in El Fasher, the besieged capital of North Darfur, continue to endure relentless attacks, acute hunger, and cholera. They face daily threats from shelling, from airstrikes, and from drone attacks, with fierce clashes reported in northeastern districts of the state capitals in the recent weeks. This week, at the sidelines of the GA, our Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher, had the opportunity to talk to both parties and address the dire need to discuss the worsening situation in Sudan in general, but particularly around El Fasher. And on Wednesday, Mr. Fletcher met with the transitional Prime Minister of Sudan, Dr. Camille Idris. The humanitarian chief noted the ongoing efforts to move pre-positioned aid supplies into the area, but the meeting also focused on expanding humanitarian access, as well as ensuring that more essential aid gets everywhere it is needed. Also this week, Mr. Fletcher spoke to General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo of the Rapid Support Forces to discuss our grave concerns over the humanitarian crisis in El Fasher, stressing the urgent need to protect civilians, halt the fighting, and ensure safe humanitarian access. We reiterate once again our call for the need to step up access of humanitarian aid in Sudan, including Darfur and Kordofan. Elsewhere in the country, aid organizations are doing everything possible to support people in need. This week, our humanitarian coordinator on the ground, Denise Brown, concluded a two-day visit to Khartoum alongside our agencies and partners. As you know, the UN remains currently based in Port Sudan. There, she met government officials, communities, and frontline workers to discuss urgent humanitarian priorities. Our humanitarian colleagues says joint efforts are underway to assist people's recovery and help communities rebuild their capital, Khartoum. UNICEF said that Thursday, 2 generators are on their way to Khartoum to restore safe water to cholera hotspots. Meanwhile, UNICEF says that the main building within the agency's compound in El Fasher came under repeated attack, with shelling killing at least 7 people who'd been sheltering in the compound and injuring others. While UNICEF has not been able to access the compound since March of 2024, the compound remains protected under UN privileges and immunities. Just days earlier, armed individuals entered the compound and took control of communications equipment and several UNICEF vehicles. Our humanitarian colleagues say that the people continue to flee heightened insecurity in El Fasher. On Tuesday and Wednesday alone, more than 1,600 people were displaced from the city. That's what IOM is telling us. OCHA says the hundreds of thousands of people who fled El Fasher are now living in dire conditions in Tawila, also in North Darfur. We and our partners on the ground of providing support, but 120 million United States dollars are urgently needed to meet people's immediate needs in that area. The World Food Program has been scaling up assistance in Tehuila, reaching some 450,000 people there last month with vital food and nutrition aid. And a quick update from Ukraine, where the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us that we and our partners continue to deliver aid across the country amidst multiple attacks in different parts of Ukraine. Authorities and our partners on the ground have reported that these attacks are impacting the energy infrastructure in Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Sumy, and Vinnytsia. In Chernihiv, for instance, an attack last night left parts of the city and the surrounding areas without electricity at a time where temperatures at night are already dropping to around 5 degrees Celsius. In the first half of 2025, we and our partners provided at least one form of humanitarian assistance to 2.4 million people across Ukraine. This is about 40% of the people we aim to reach within the humanitarian response. While we're grateful for generous donor support, the sharp increase in attacks in recent months has triggered additional needs and new displacement, putting further pressure on an already stretched response, particularly ahead of winter. We and our partners continue to scale up assistance ahead of the winter 2025-26 winter response plan launched in July, which seeks for $280 million, only 40% funded. Two more quick notes. Yesterday, the UN Peacebuilding Commission held its annual ministerial level meeting on the theme of promoting social cohesion and inclusive governance to foster community resilience and sustainable peace. It was chaired by the Foreign Minister of Germany and chair of the Peacebuilding Commission, Mr. Johann Waddepoel. Members states expressed support and appreciation for the UN peacebuilding architecture created 20 years ago to help countries with longer-term stabilization, but they expressed deep concern at the level of conflict around the world and called for tackling the root causes of violence, including inequality, exclusion, with a view to build resilient societies based on strong bonds and social trust. 4 countries paid their contributions. You ready? All right. First one's a little easy. This country's name is believed to come from the Portuguese meaning of Lioness Mountain.
Sierra Leone?
Yes, Brazil. Okay. All right. The second is a landlocked country in Africa that was named after the Zambezi River. Zambia. Exactly. The next country was the first winner of the FIFA World Cup and the first host of the FIFA World Cup. All right. Uruguay, that was easy. And finally, this last country is home to Esmeralda. Esmeralda is a giant tortoise, which is believed to be the heaviest one in the world, tipping the scales at over 670 pounds and estimated to be 170 years old. Where does she live? No, Seychelles. So we thank our friends in Freetown, Lusaka, Montevideo, and Victoria for their full payments. We're up to 133. Yep. Beno.
Thank you, Steph. I want to start with the talk of the town, or the talk of the world, rather, escalator gate. The United States president wants an investigation into the escalator, and he wants arrests. Where does that investigation stand as of now?
Put out.
Yes.
We've been in touch with the U.S. mission. The Secretary General had spoken to Ambassador Waltz. Others have spoken to the mission. We had said even before the tweet from the president that we had launched a deeper investigation. We've opened. We've told the U.S. they're welcome to join us as we look further, but obviously we stand by our preliminary findings that we shared with you.
And can you walk me through what you specifically investigate? What about the cameras? For example, are you looking into that footage, and do you think there could be arrests, actually?
Of course, we're looking into the footage. As you know, there are quite a lot of cameras within the UN.
When can we expect?
Well, I mean, as I said, we've shared the preliminary findings with you on different occasions. As soon as I have an update, I'll share it with you.
Thank you.
Farnoosh.
Thanks, Jeff. Can you just, is there any plans or discussions about any last minute meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister
No.
today? Okay.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
sorry, secondly, you spoke about U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz. He said in a Fox interview yesterday that in his conversations with Secretary General, he has said that the U.S. will not pay its dues until it does a full reform of U.S. funding of UN organizations. Are you guys assisting them, providing any sort of, documents or any look into that? What is that conversation?
Well, I mean, that conversation is a conversation we've had with the United States for quite some time, as our largest funder, and the Secretary General, I think, in his first meeting with Ambassador Waltz, had a really good meeting with him, and they discussed the ongoing UN reforms, and obviously we'll stay in touch with the U.S. Pam, then David.
Thanks, Steph. At this on the sidelines of the General Assembly, there have been several meetings about peace talks for Gaza,
Mhm,
peace
mhm.
plans.
Mhm.
One is Macron,
Mm-hmm.
President Macron, the other is President Trump. Some of them have the UN as in a role in this post-war plan. Needless to say, I know the Security Council would have to be involved, but what is the position of the Secretariat about the UN being involved, not in distribution of aid or any other things UN has been involved with, but in a post-war
Look,
transition?
I don't want to. I don't want to speculate. You know, there are a lot of reports out there. I think you all know the Secretary General's position on the need for a ceasefire, more humanitarian aid to get the hostages out, and also on the need for the Palestinian people to be able to choose their own future. David?
Thank you, Steph. Two questions. Your reaction to the walkout this morning during Benjamin Netanyahu's speech, and the second question is there any reaction to President Trump's announcement during the gaggle that there is a ceasefire in order and that there's a possibility for a peaceful solution to the
Yeah, I mean,
situation in Gaza?
you know, I listened to the President of the United States. Obviously, we very much hope there will be a peace deal that meets the aspirations of both the Palestinians and the Israelis. Far be it from me to comment on what member states do. Abdelhamid, Lenka, and then we'll come back.
Sorry, and the walk out reaction.
As I said, far be it for me to comment on what member states do with their legs.
Thank you, Steph. Two questions. First, is anyone from the UN Secretariat attended Netanyahu's speech officially? I mean, like representing the Secretary General?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of secretary people in the room. I mean, I don't really understand your question.
No, because sometimes the SG sent someone to sit there officially.
So there are two people.
I remember last year, and I know who went
there are
there.
three chairs on the upper level of the podium, right? There's the Secretariat of the meeting, which is usually represented by the Secretary General for General Assembly Affairs or his deputy. There's the seat for the President of the General Assembly, who sits there, or the Vice President. And then there's a seat which is either occupied by the Secretary General or the Deputy Secretary General. That seat has not always been filled, regardless of who is speaking, because both the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General have other engagements. So whether or not there's somebody in that seat or not somebody in that seat has nothing to do with the speaker. It rather has to do with the schedule of those two senior UN officials.
Okay. Second question, how do you characterize this global system when there is a leader who is indicted as a war criminal, wanted for the ICC, and his counterpart from the Palestinian, who is stretching his hand for peace, says officially that I recognize the state of Israel. I want to make peace with Israel. He's denied coming to the General Assembly. How do
I will leave that analysis to analysts such as yourself. I mean, you know our position is that that President Abbas should have been given a visa. The fact that he and his delegation were not, we feel, goes contrary to the headquarters agreement, and representatives of every member, because every representative of every member state and or permanent observer have a right to speak. Here, Lenka.
Thank you, Steph. Two questions, please. On escalators, who is going to investigate it? Which UN department is focusing on it?
Secretary General's task are Office of OIOS to kind of lead and coordinate between the various services.
Okay. Thank you. Second question. Ambassador Waltz also said in an interview with Fox that the UN should get back to basics and quote unquote stop all this woke nonsense and reduce focus on climate change. Do you think the UN will follow any of these recommendations?
Look, I'm not going to start commenting on every interview every permanent representative gives, but I can tell you that we work on behalf of member states, and we work towards the goals within the ideals of the Charter. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the mandates are given to us by the member states. Yep.
Thank you, Steph. Two questions for you, if you don't mind. First, during this high-level week, nearly all heads of states have raised the same issue. The need to amend the Security Council permanent member structure. Of course, under Article 108 of the UN Charter, all permanent members must unanimously agree to such reform. The reality is the Council can't even agree on urgent threats to peace like Gaza. So my question is, what practical, pragmatic role can the SG play in pushing?
Well, I mean, his role, and frankly, the role of his predecessors has been an advocate for Security Council reform. I think he spoke about it during his press conference here. He's spoken about it repeatedly, that it needs to be more reflective of the world that we live in today, as opposed to the world 1945. Your second question.
And then second question, please. Yeah, any reactions by the SG to Trump's assertion that the UN was not at all helpful in helping broker any peace deals?
Look, I'm not going to comment on every remarks made from the podium. I think what I can tell you is that the Secretary General had a very good meeting with the President of the United States. Deji, and then we'll go here.
Yes, first on the speech of Prime Minister Netanyahu, I would presume that those people from the upper level, they are the guests from these mission.
I mean, every delegation is allowed to bring in guests.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in his remarks, he mentioned, and I quote, "Thanks to special efforts by Israeli intelligence, my words are now being carried. They are streamed live through the cell phones of Gazans." Is this the first of all?
I have no comment.
Has UN staff there received this?
I have no, not that I'm aware of, but I have no comment on.
Okay.
On
On the meeting between the ESG and President Trump, since he said today that there may be a deal already on Gaza. What details can you tell us about the?
I have nothing to share with you on that.
Between their. Okay. One last question. Sorry, escalator. I'm sorry. This is what. Right after the escalator, Fox.
What we need to do is either.
No, I don't.
Have you seen this before?
No, but just say what you don't. Please don't play the video because it's hard to hear.
Okay.
What is your question?
So they said it either bomb the UN or gas it and tear it down to make it a luxurious condo near the Easter River. I mean, what is your reaction?
I think we were shocked, to say the least, at the remarks. There is nothing funny or ironic in calling for the bombing, the gassing, the destruction of this building, in which thousands of people work. During delegates come in. We know painfully the reality of what happens when threats are made against the UN. We lost friends in Baghdad. I personally walked through the rubble of the building in Algiers, where the UN was bombed. Our colleagues in Abuja were also bombed. That kind of language is unacceptable. We were in touch with Fox News. And Mr. Waters contacted one of our colleagues and apologized. Yes, sir.
Hello, this is Mohammed Ramawi from Pass Blue. So yesterday, the Secretary General met with the President of Iran, and in the readout it says that the two discussed regional issues of mutual interest, and that the Secretary General stressed the need to resolve issues regarding Iran's nuclear program through diplomacy. Can you give us any insight into what are the regional issues of mutual interest between the UN Secretary General and the Iranian president? And can you tell us like what they talked about? What did the Iranian president tell him?
I'm sure if you've learned from reading these readouts, they're very detailed. That was a joke. Issues of mutual interest, I think, are pretty obvious. The situation in the Middle East as a whole, the situation in Yemen, and issues relating to Iran's nuclear program.
But what did they tell each other? Did they agree on anything?
I'm not going to go any further than what was said in the readout. Yes, sir.
My name is Yuri Aprelev. I'm the UN Geneva based correspondent of RIA Novosti. I have two questions. The first one is, today marks the anniversary of the Nord Stream pipeline attacks and the investigation has not yet given any results. What message did the AG have on this anniversary?
I mean, I would refer you to what was said not too long ago by our colleague, Mr. Yensha, in a Security Council briefing regarding the need to protect a civilian infrastructure.
Okay, and my second question is, on Monday, the Russian president said that Russia is ready to continue to follow the limitations of the New START treaty after February 2026. Does the UN support this proposal by the Russian side?
We support the continuation of the major disarmament treaties that exist. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Omar Ftiyati. How do you react to the calls by many leaders here who said that UN or its organs could be moved to their cities, to their countries?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, so we heard Turkish President Erdogan saying that Istanbul could be a good UN hub, and there are other leaders who are calling for UN and its organs moved to their cities amid the funding shortage.
I mean,
how
the relocation of posts from a number of traditional UN headquarters cities to others is something that is being looked at, something that has already happened. Istanbul is already home to a number of regional hubs for various UN organizations. So we are is something we're continuously evaluating. Sylviane, sorry. Sorry?
Yes. It's about Lebanon. What is the reaction of the UNHQ to the situation in Beirut, where Hezbollah used the La Grotte aux Pigeons to project the photos of Nasrallah in a sign of defiance against Prime Minister Nawaf Salam at the risk of a new security flare-up in Lebanon, especially with the arrival of Larijani tomorrow in Beirut to support Hezbollah in its celebration of the first commemoration of Hassan Nasrallah's death. Any
Look,
reaction?
I mean, no specific reaction to the incident, but only to say that the Secretary General has met the Prime Minister on a number of occasions, and we're fully supportive of his and the President and the government's effort in Lebanon. Javier.
Steph, you said that President Trump and the Secretary General, they had a very good meeting. President Trump said he transmitted the message that he was 100% with the UN. Is that the same understanding of the Secretary General?
You know, all we can go by is what they said to each other and the Secretary General's own perception of his meeting in person with the Secretary General. You heard the positive comments during when the cameras were there. And from what the Secretary General told me, they did have a very good meeting and they discussed a number of serious issues, notably regarding peace and notably regarding Ukraine. Yes, sir.
Just to follow up on Netanyahu's speech today. He
On
ordered
whose speech?
Netanyahu.
Yeah.
He ordered.
Sorry, what is your name? I
sorry,
don't know.
Ali Harb from Al Jazeera. He ordered the Israeli military to broadcast his speech into Gaza. Any comment on a function of this body being used? What can be described as psychological torture of an entire population?
I have no specific comment on that. I have no reports that it worked or didn't work. I think the focus should be on alleviating the suffering of the Palestinian people, getting more humanitarian aid in, and getting the hostages out. Yes, sir.
Hello, Zamra from El Watan newspaper from Egypt. I want to ask, we still have two wars in Ukraine and Russia and in Gaza, and people speak about how we renew trust in UN after 80 years, especially we still have this war.
Well, if you look around the world, I think you have to, if you look at the UN, I think you have to ask yourself which part of the UN are you most frustrated with? Are you frustrated by the work that our humanitarian colleagues do in the field? Are you frustrated by the work that our development colleagues do in the field? Are you frustrated by the human rights monitoring, or are you frustrated by the inability of member states to come together and agree on certain issues regarding peace and security? Yes, ma'am.
Steph Miao from Xinhua News Agency. And I'd like to hear your take on Chinese Premier Li's speech this morning. Do you see idealism or pragmatism or idealistic pragmatism? Thank you.
Not to be honest, I think, and I've answered this. We're not in the business of commenting on everyone's remarks. I can tell you that the Secretary General had a very good meeting with the Prime Minister. As you know, he had been in China recently, and as a major contributor, as a permanent member of this organization, the role of China in supporting multilateral institutions is very important.
Thank you so much.
Abdelhamid.
Going back to the speech of Netanyahu. He said that he's not targeting civilians. He went on to explain that, which is, the word knows something that Netanyahu. The word doesn't know something Netanyahu only knows. But he said in his speech, 90% of the Palestinians supported October 7th. Isn't that a flagrant case of justifying the genocide? When he said 90% of the Palestinians, 90%.
Abdelhamid, with all due respect, again, we are not going to comment line by line on what the Prime Minister said, whether it's Prime Minister of Israel, the Prime Minister of China, the President of France. We will let you as journalists do a compare and contrast, analyze, pick the speeches apart. That's your job. Our position in terms of what is going on in Gaza, I think, could not be any clearer. And we restate it and we state it every day. The Secretary General is here. He said it in numerous speeches on Monday at the two-state solution meeting, yesterday on the UNRWA. So we will let you do your work. Okay, anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you educate me on where things
Can I educate you? No.
On where things stand on the snapback of sanctions against Iran if the draft resolution doesn't pass the Security Council this afternoon? What will happen on Sunday?
Well, on my understanding, and obviously things remain in the hands of a Security Council. The time of implementation would be 8:01 Eastern time on Saturday. Okay, Benno.
Sorry,
Farnoosh, you have to sit. You have to bear. You have to listen through Benno. Go ahead.
Just the technical question. Will you send out like a summary? How many from the speakers? How many were female? How many were male? What's the longest speech? All of this.
We will do our best, probably on Monday or Tuesday, once everything is over and we've had time to tally ho. Goodbye. My pleasure. Vous êtes venu de Genève?